Are you going through a storm in your life right now? One of those dark, depressing storms that's holding you back and just breaking you on the inside? If you are, well, today I have 3 steps to help you not only endure, but overcome the storm in your life. So if you want to find out those keys, stay tuned and find out more. Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Life Beyond Church, where we try and help people live as a living, active, and vibrant believer from Mondays all the way to Saturdays. As always, I'm Cameron Conway, owner of Conway Christian Resources and the author of books such as Understanding Who You Are, A Survey 21st Century Christian Beliefs, and 6 Minutes of Grace, the key to finding happiness and purpose. Now, I know what you're thinking. Storms of life, how do I avoid them? How do I endure them? And how do I get God involved in this? These are the kind of questions I want to talk to you about today when I talk about the 3 ways to endure the storms of your life. So let's just get right to it. Now, the first way to endure the storm is to accept that they are inevitable. That's right. That is the great grand revelation that we're starting off with today, that storms are unavoidable in most times, in most situations. They come over the horizon, they rain on your parade, and that's just life. You can't avoid the storms. Even Jesus couldn't avoid the storms of life. He couldn't avoid the emotional storms he dealt with his disciples when they ran off. He couldn't deal with the social storms when the Pharisees would confront him. And he couldn't even avoid the natural storms that just happen every day on earth. We see this play out in Mark chapter 4, verses 35 to 41. This is the famous story of Jesus calming the storm. But I want to take a look now at this place in the gospel and see exactly what did Jesus do when he encountered one of these natural storms. On that day, when evening came, he said to them, "Let us go over to the other side." Leaving the crowd, they took him alongside with them in the boat, just as he was, and other boats were with him. And there arose a fierce gale of wind, and the waves were breaking over the boat, so much that the boat was already filling up. Jesus himself was in the stern, asleep on a cushion, and they woke him and said to him, "Teacher, do you not care that we are perishing?" And he got up and rebuked the wind and said to the sea, "Hush, be still." And the wind died down and it became perfectly calm. And he said to them, "Why are you afraid? How is it you have no faith?" They became very much afraid and said to one another, "Who then is this that even the wind and the sea obey him?" So Jesus couldn't avoid the storm on Lake Galilee that day, but he did have the power and authority to stop it. Now, I know we don't all have the same authority and Jesus that he can express and the fullness at a drop of a hat. We still have to pray, go through God's will, and great things can't happen, miracles can't happen, storms can't suddenly stop. But at the same time, we tend to fall into the position of the disciples. They weren't thinking that a storm would rise up. They were seeing all the great and wonderful miracles and deeds that Jesus was doing, and all of a sudden, one of these storms of life came upon them. And instead of having faith and believing that God could do something, they cried out in terror. Now, a lot of these are hardened fishermen. They know what life in the lake was like, and yet they doubted Jesus. And they didn't understand why this terrible thing was coming upon us, even though this great prophet, this miracle worker, the Son of God was right there in the boat. Even having Jesus in the boat didn't spare them from the storm. And that's why I talk about the first key being that we have to accept that the storms are inevitable. But at the same time, we're not alone when the storm does come. So let's move on to the second key. And the second key is learning how to see storms from God's perspective. So the wind and the sea were raging against the boat, and Jesus was asleep. Jesus didn't have fear, he didn't have anxiety, because he knew that God was with him and was going to carry him through that storm. He saw the storm from heaven's perspective, that it was just wind and air and water, and had no power over him. So when Jesus did rise up and rebuke the wind, it obeyed and listened, because Jesus saw things from a different perspective. Now, I know this can be hard to theologize and apply to our own lives, but we need to learn how to see things from God's vantage point. The giant mountain before us is most often just a molehill, but there's other times where a mountain is in fact a mountain, and God will give you the keys and the desire and the patience and the knowledge to learn how to either scale the mountain, blow it up, or tunnel through it. Because when we see things from God's perspective, we can begin to have hope. And hope is the key. The disciples in the boat that day, they completely lost all hope, all faith, and all trust. And that's where most people fail and fall off the track when a storm comes into their life. They abandon all hope. It's something that reflects on our own heart when we face one too many storms in life or just one big one. We lose hope, we lose faith, and we begin to look to ourselves to solve the problem rather than looking to God to be the solution to our problems. But first, we have to look at it from His perspective that no storm can shake heaven. No hurricane can knock over the heavenly holy of holies, and no tornado can kick Jesus off of the throne. Now, God won't always clear the storm away. Rather, He'll provide a lifeline to carry you through it, to help you grow and develop and begin to see God as good and loving, and rather as the vindictive judge who sent the storm because you didn't tie your shoes properly. I know it's silly, but it's something we think about. And that carries us to the third step. Now, I like to say it like this: there are times in the storm where you have to abandon the rudder, but put all your energy into keeping the sails upright. This comes back to trusting God and having faith and hope in Him. It's trusting that He will help you navigate the storms, but you still have to do everything within your power to keep the sails up so that the wind can drive you in the right direction. So you're not just being pushed back to the shore by the current, by the waves, and by the wind. It's your responsibility through your relationship, through your devotional time, through with other people, even, is to keep those sails up and strong and pointed in the right direction so that when God does come bring a course correction, you are ready to go along with it. Because sometimes Jesus does just have to take the wheel. He can give you insight, He can give you words, be it rhema or logos, He can give you counsel, or that counsel can come from other people, but it'll allow God to shift you so you can go into the waves instead of against the waves by keeping those sails strong through perseverance, through hope, through trust, and through relationship with God. You can endure the storm. And instead of being toppled over and capsized, God will teach you how to ride the waves so you can sail over them because you kept your patience, you kept your perseverance, and you kept your eyes on God as if He was some sort of divine lighthouse drawing you to the shore and to the harbor of safety. We begin to look at all these things together. We begin to see God's nature, that He wants to help us throughout the storms. He's not the one always bringing the storm, although there are some exceptions in the Old Testament and other places. But for the most part, storms just happen because that's life. And when we begin to bring God into our lives and make Him a living part of it, as I talk about in 6 Minutes of Grace, where you go through the whole grace process of making God a daily part of your life, an hourly part of your life, where that relationship takes priority over the problems of your life. When all that comes together, the storms aren't always as scary. Yes, they'll still be dark. Yes, the thunder will still be loud. Yes, the lightning may strike beside you, but you have someone else in the boat with you. You have Jesus sleeping on His pillow. And that's the example we should follow, that yes, we trust God, we do as He says, we have faith and endurance, but at the same time, we should also be able to rest throughout these terrible times, throughout these storms of life. Because without rest, without God involved, we're not even in the boat. We're going through these storms of life, swimming under our own strength and hoping for the best. And all we can achieve is to, well, if you survive, you just end up crashing upon the shore and having to go through it all over again. So that's why your relationship with God is important. That's where sanctification is important. That's where relationship is important. That's where daily devotional time is important. So that when the storm does come, you can sail through it and come out the other side. Well, it's all the time we have today for Life Beyond Church. If you enjoy this, I pray that you to share it, you like it, you subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so that you won't miss out on any further teachings. If you want more information on this topic, you can go to conwaychristianresources.com where you can find articles, podcasts, including the article that this video is based upon, and the half-hour podcast, which is a companion to this teaching. If you want to go even further, you can also get a hold of my books, either 6 Minutes of Grace or Understanding Who You Are. This is a step-by-step Christianity 101, so you know who you are, who God is, and how to live out that life today. Before we go, I have this question for you. What storm are you going through in your life right now? How can we pray for you? And which of these three keys is most important to your situation right now? And after you write down that comment, I want you to look up Psalms 107, verses 28 to 31, and make that your daily reflection for the next several days, because it talks about how God is the great calmer of the storm, and how He cares and wants to help you through this life. So until next time, I'm Cameron Conway, and I pray that God will bless you, He'll speak to you, He will carry you through the storms. So until next week, take care, and God bless.